Hello and welcome back to my Delso Valley renovation. This is part three. In case you missed it, I already posted two videos going through all the community lots downtown. And today I'm going to show you the more affordable houses in the valley. Final note before we jump into the tour, two of these builds will actually have two versions up on my gallery. That's on purpose. I will explain to you why when I'm giving you the tour. They are posted years apart. They both serve a purpose, especially depending on which type of gameplay you're looking for or the kind of packs you have installed. And now let's jump into the game. So to start off, I'm going to show what I did with the house that belongs to the townie from Del Sol Valley, Vanessa Young. I will show you just very quickly what the build looks like and my biggest problems with it, although it's a Del Sol Valley build. So, I think we all know it's not perfect. But I also wanted to just call attention to the fact that I gave her a little bit of a makeover as well. Not a huge makeover. I just always felt like her head was way too big for her body. So I literally shrunk the head and then just gave her a makeover. I gave her a tattoo, different outfits, a different hairstyle. Obviously, you don't have to play with her like this. I just kind of felt like giving her a makeover so that whenever I play with her, I have a more, I don't know, fleshed out character to play with. So this build is another classic of Del Sol Valley fails. So obviously huge and empty. You have this weird flooring that is placed against the orientation of the rest of the room. You have this really long, skinny bathroom for no good reason. You have a huge kitchen. You have a hallway, and you have the saddest room with just the white chair and desk with nothing on it, and then a single bed. Not even a nightstand. There's no plants. There's no nothing in this house. It's just so weird and sad. On the exterior, they sort of try to go along with the shells that they have in the rest of the world. The problem with these shells and Del Sol Valley is that the windows and some of the details used in this shell are actually from Cats and Dogs and from Seasons. So there was no actual way for them to recreate it. There was, of course, a better way for them to try and recreate it. Instead, we just end up with this weird house that just looks very, very unfinished. But my biggest problem with this build is not even the build, but in fact, it's the lot itself. They, for some reason, decided that the lot would not connect to the front, which is the front of the lot. If they, by any chance, had done this as the back of the lot, sort of as a back street entrance, I would have preferred it that this was the front, but I would at least understand. Fine, whenever you go home, you go in through the back. But no, that's not the reality of what we have here. So I really don't understand their choice. They've done this in other packs. So I remade this house and I kind of tried as much as possible to remove any of these harsh lines, that are very apparent of where the lot ends, and just try to blend it in a bit more and feel less weird to the fact that it doesn't connect to the front. All right, so this is my remodel, or should I say rebuild, because I kept a zero from it. I know that Vanessa actually has more money, but I turned this into a full starter home because I wanted to still keep one. The other builds that I made are not starter homes, so I wanted this one to still be affordable and it's only base game and get famous. I just wanted to make sure that this build was available for anyone that wanted to replace that house because maybe you like to play with Vanessa and the house is just kind of sad. So because it's a starter home, I kept it pretty simple on the outside. All of the palm trees and trees and everything that you're seeing around is debug, so you don't really pay for it. Same with the fence around. It's all pieces that I put from debug. I added a car because this sort of looks like a driveway. Most of Del Sol Valley lots look like they have driveways, so I just put it up so it wouldn't look strange, so that when you're in live mode, it looks less weird. The fact that the lot does not connect to the sidewalk, and it looks just like the car just drives up through here into the lot without an official driveway. For the path, instead of using actual floor tiles, I used these stones that you can find in debug as well. I put each stone not exactly aligned with one another so that in fact you couldn't really tell exactly when the lot ended, or at least not so obvious when you look at it. So when you come into the house, to the right you find the kitchen, to the left the living room, and in front the dining area. I think for a starter home, it feels still pretty put together. There's even a fireplace, TV, computer, all the essentials are here. The kitchen is small and simple, but it does still have upper cabinets. And the dining area is nice and complete with a rug, the chairs from Get Famous. There's even artwork. For the bathroom, I used the new tiles in pink. This bathroom is functional, even though it's just 2x2. I play tested it, so everything works. And I also added this artwork, which is cheap, and it's a little bit funky, and I think it kind of matches Vanessa's vibe. For the bedroom, I kept it very simple. It's mostly in dark tones. The bedroom doesn't have a lot going on, but it still has a bed, wardrobe, nightstands, mirror. So, nothing is really missing from the room. In the back over here, I just created a small patio. I put two chairs and a little table. I put the trash can, and then I just put some planter boxes. I filled them with plants from Debug, but you can, of course, then use this to actually plant something. I just wanted to make it look finished, but of course, you can delete these and develop the gardening skill. Overall, I feel like the house fits the environment a lot better. I think it's a lot less obvious that it doesn't connect directly to the sidewalk. I definitely tried my best to not make it seem like a starter home and definitely not feel like a house on a super tight budget. So I tried to give it as much detail as possible. Hopefully you agree with me that this is a much better version and a much more suitable house for this lot. Next up, we go to the actual starter home that EA gave us. Again, for previous reasons, I don't particularly like this build. I think the roofline is weird as hell. There's a lot of money spent on fencing that could definitely been better invested into stuff on the inside. But my biggest problem with both of these lots in Del Sol Valley is the fact that everything around is so on top of each other and so condensed. It's meant to really feel like, there's not a lot of lot space or garden space per house. Everything is very much on top of each other. And if they had given us maybe 3 or 4 lots of 15 by 20 right next to each other, this could have been achieved and all in individual lots, but they didn't. They decided to give this 30 by 20 and then here 40 by 30, which obviously is not going to feel as busy and compact as the rest of the surroundings. So in case you haven't visited this lot in a while, here's an overview of how it looks. It's basically empty, especially the kitchen area is humongous for no good reason. Again, you barely have furniture in this house. We have another long, skinny bathroom. The bedroom is a little bit less sad than the previous house, ironically, even though that Vanessa has a lot more cash. At least this bedroom has a dresser. But again, the house is just really, 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 really sad. There's nothing special about it. They could have made it smaller. They could have gotten rid of the fence and used that money to buy more items inside. There's so many different choices that could have made this a more appealing starter home. And just as I explained when showing the previous house, this will no longer be a starter home. My creation here completely erases this idea and will be very, very different. So this is what I built instead. Obviously very, very different. There's actually going to be 2 versions available on my gallery. One, which I built a few years ago before for rent. So this in the back, this house in the back, and this garage in the back were actually shells found from the world that I just put up and kind of shrank the lot so that it would look a little bit more condensed. And the only available playable real house was the one in front and this garage. But for this version, since now we have for rent and we can actually split this into several households, I decided to build it all. And in fact, there are 4 total homes in this lot. So we'll start off in the first house that you see when you come into the lot. I designed this house as pretty simple 1-bedroom house. The only sort of detail to it or more personality is the fact that this sim has a dog. Like I said, it's no longer a starter home, it's more expensive, but the fact that it's a rental also makes it a lot easier for you to move in and then kind of just figure out how to pay the rent and not necessarily worried about paying for the lot. The initial version that is up on my gallery, I call this young actor's home, I think. And the idea was, in fact, that just, someone who already had a little bit of an acting career, had a little bit of money, but was still not super wealthy. So the house looks nice. It has some nice amenities, but it's not, the most opulent house in the block. It's a nice home right now. They've made their money. They've made enough to live a comfortable life. They have a small backyard over here with a pool and a couple of lounge chairs. They also have a grill and an outside table here on this little porch. So when you come into this house, you have just a small front yard over here with some dog stuff. And then to the left, you have a divider that in my mind, it was put up after, they converted the garage into an apartment. So there's a little bit more privacy. But here you have a 1-bedroom apartment. This is a lot smaller, also a lot more affordable. That's one of the fun things that I enjoyed in making these lots is that the houses are more expensive, but the garage apartments that I built are actually pretty affordable. The rent is not very high, so you can, in fact, pay rent, make a living fairly easy. If you're starting off with your sim, and trying to build up the career, they will be able to pay for everything that they need. So when you walk into the small apartment, you have a living area and also a desk with a laptop. You have the kitchen over here, small with a peninsula, just instead of a dining table, because again, there's not a lot of space. To the right, you have the bedroom, and then at the end, you have the bathroom. And they also have this small patio in the front where I put a picnic table and a grill, just so there was some outside space as well associated to this house. It is Del Sol Valley where it's supposed to be sunny and always nice weather, so I thought it makes sense to have a little bit of outside space for this house as well. Moving to the back, both houses are almost identical. I did end up changing it up a little bit. Since this was an actual build and not just a shell, I decided to adapt it a bit more and give a different option than the house in the front. Also, the shape of the shell of the garage was completely different, so the apartment that I built is also very, very different from the one in front. So starting in the main house, The houses don't look exactly the same, but in a way, almost made it like an inverted alternate reality home. So this person is a cat owner and not a dog owner, and I kind of placed the furniture in the same place. I kind of just replaced it with something else. And in this house, I also added an extra bedroom here in the back. I wanted to make this into a possibility of being a family home, so there can be a couple here with a child, for example. I figured as an alternative, it could be nice to, instead of just being a singles home, turn this into a more family home. Kept everything pretty much in the same style. The kitchen, I changed just the color of the cabinets, for example. So, it still felt like it was exactly the same builders that built the house. It's just slightly different. This yard is less fancy or as less expensive as the one in the house in front, but it's more family oriented. So, you have the kids' pool, you have the swings, you have the monkey bars, you have planters, just a little bit more playful and a little bit more family friendly. And over here in the front of the lot, you have a picnic table, a barbecue, and just some plants. Unlike the house in front, this entrance is just for the big house. So the garage has their own access through the street. So in this case, I didn't really separate it. And this is the full yard of this home. For the garage apartment, I actually put a debug truck in front just to give it a little bit of a realistic vibe, that someone would just park over here and then go home. Put a working table here in the front as well. There's trash cans and the mailbox. When you come in, you have a small hallway. And then when you walk into the living space, it's small, a bit tight, but everything is here. So you have a small kitchen over here in the corner. You have the living room. You have a desk, sort of office space, and then you have a small dining table. I really like this apartment. Honestly, it's very realistic because it's small. And this is the kind of a home that probably most of us live in. Not a very large, opulent Sims home where you have space and space and space. Things are sort of on top of each other, or as much as possible, you try to maximize your space. So I tried to make it feel realistic in that way and really maximize the space that I had to make it a nice apartment. Through this small sort of hallway, you have the bathroom over here on the left and then the bedroom at the end. It's sort of simple, but again, it has enough stuff to make it feel enough lived in, enough personality, but it is quite affordable. I think the rent is 80 simoleons per day, something like that, compared to the homes, which I think are like 180 or 190. So, the difference is huge. And this is a fully functional, nice small apartment. Over here in the back, I just gave them a picnic table, a barbecue, and also an easel, just to have a small yard space. Quick overshot of the four homes. So the idea was really to create this as this was once two homes with a garage that now had been converted into apartments in the garage space. It still had the large houses, and the yard associated with the homes. All of this is a bit of a weird shape, because I had to sort of split and kind of give a little bit of yard to each of the homes. This version is slightly different from the one that I have on my gallery before we had for rent, because obviously I sacrificed completely this part of the lot because it wasn't going to be playable. And also I was more mindful of money because it wasn't a rented place, it was a bought place, and I wanted to make it semi-affordable. Finally, we have the empty big lot, which obviously you can expect to see something completely different because something will actually be here. But just before I place my build down, I just wanted to show the difference. When you have this over here, it already feels a lot more connected to the rest of the environment, and it already feels a lot more compact and busy. To me, this is what I wanted to see in Del Sol Valley, in these lots. But in a sense, I can't blame them for wanting to give us more lot space. They were trying to be generous, I think, in that sense, but I would have preferred a little bit of a different vibe. Okay, now with the lot placed, I think you can fully understand my intention with all the builds. I think now everything sort of matches the environment. These homes are also based on a shell. I also have another version of this home, in this case, just the one on the right that was playable, and this was just purely a shell. I made a second version now with for rent so that you can have multiple families living here. But in case you don't have for rent or you just don't want to play with other families in the same lot, or maybe you want to increase and give them a giant yard, whatever it is, you have the alternative as well. Again, the house is slightly different, and I wasn't so concerned about how much the house costed, so it is slightly different, the house on the right, but it's still kept the vibe, let's say. The ones on the right are a craftsman style home. These over here are more of a mid-century. I'm going to start with the one on the left because I made this one as sort of a modern version, that the clearly who lives here had enough money to come and remodel the home. And this one I tried to give it more of a vibe that, it was an old build still with the original floor plan and everything. So it's going to be quite different from the other one. To make this lot fit more into the environment, I did create these three fake roads. This one, a bigger one where it kind of seems like cars would be able to fully drive through. and these two as driveways for the garages of each house, and then sort of, an entryway. You enter the house through the side, and I also put a gate over here, so, the access to the houses are not made in the front, they're made in the side. I think it's interesting, honestly. I think it gives it a completely different experience than what you usually have, I think, in the game, and probably even build. Because I was trying to fit at the time one house and a shell, I just shifted around until it made sense. And this is what I ended up with. And now I'm very happy that it's actually two real homes and not just a home and a shell. So, like I said, the entrance to the house is made through the side. When you walk in, you have this hallway that connects to the living room in front and to the kitchen in the left. Let's first go off to the kitchen. I made it into a kitchen and dining area. It's huge, honestly. I feel like this style of home definitely has a lot of counter space. A lot of times they have islands and, that kind of stuff that maybe these days in the real world, homes are a lot more expensive. So some of these sort of luxuries have been removed for the sake of being more affordable. But these mid-century homes were still built at the time that people had, enough money, and the houses were way more affordable. So I wanted to give that impression. It's a very, very functional. There's a dishwasher, there's a coffee machine, there's a microwave, there's a stove, there's a fridge, there's a bar. Everything is here. Over here through the kitchen, you also have access to this powder room. It's just a sink and a toilet, but it's always useful to have more bathrooms in a home if you can squeeze it in. Moving on to the living room, this was where I tried to give it really the mid-century vibe. So a sunken lounge, there's purple carpet, there's stone wall, there's green paneling. I tried to give it as much of a sort of 70s vibe as much as I could. There's a fireplace over here, there's a big TV, there's a lot of bookshelves. This is sort of a very intricate built-in office space. I put two bookshelves, I have the desk, and then actually squeezed the bar in the dining area to the wall. So it actually came out a little bit. So I also placed this shelf over here. The point was just to hide my little mistake. Through the living room and in between the bookshelves, you have access to this small hallway that leads to three bedrooms. To the left, you have a children's bedroom. I decorated it in, funky colors, but it's nice. I think there's enough personality, enough cute little details around the bedroom. And of course, if you move a sim here and this doesn't suit you, you can always decorate this to whatever style you prefer. If you go straight ahead from the hallway, you find what I decorated sort of as a teenager bedroom. So it's a little bit more messy, a little bit more funky. There's a lot of posters on the wall. I just wanted to give it sort of that vibe of kids discovering themselves and developing their personality, their tastes. I had a lot of fun. I think it kind of translates a vibe. So I had fun doing it. In between the two kids' bedrooms, you have a shared bathroom. I think it's a pretty nice bathroom, and especially nice to be shared between the two bedrooms. Finally, to the right, you have the main bedroom, which also has a small ensuite. The bedroom is definitely small, as are all of the bedrooms in this home, to be honest, but I wanted to maximize the space and this house to really fit at least a decent sized family, at least four Sims, but I wanted to make it very functional. So the kids have their own bathroom, and then this bedroom also has their own ensuite. I think overall, if you actually play in the house, it's a very nice house to play in because it has everything you need. But despite the fact that it's small, it's very playable in a more realistic home. Through the living room, there's these foldable doors into a little covered porch. And then this yard is more family oriented, even though I did put the pond over here on the left. So, it's a little bit of a risk. If you add something to the pond and then your Sims jump in. I did add a splash pad over here. There's monkey bars. There's a swing. I think it still looks very nice, but more focused on family life. Like the previous builds, I sort of converted the garage into an apartment. This is the most affordable apartment out of all the houses. And it is quite small, but I really like it. It's in fact just a studio. So there is no actual split of the room, except for the bathroom. But I think that suited very much the vibe of what I would expect to be a very expensive city, in Del Sol Valley. Sims having to live in studios and everything to be able to pay rent and then kind of go up in life, and especially in like acting, singing, whatever careers, that obviously is more the vibe of this world. So when you walk in, you have the small kitchen just over here in the corner. You come down a step to the living area. This is a very funky house. I placed a lot of blue and orange and this wallpaper, which is kind of wacky, but I was just feeling again the vibe of the 70s mid-century. And over here, through the light separation and step, you have the bedroom, which has a small table with a laptop, a wardrobe, and the bed. Over here in the corner, you have the bathroom, which has the shower tub combo. And honestly, this, despite being the most affordable of the apartments of these two builds, it has every single thing. So I really, really like this one. And I think I'm gonna play honestly with both. I think all of the small apartments are very captivating for me to play in. Maybe it's my traumatized millennial vibe that, I can't afford a house, I have to rent one, but I kind of feel like this is a better way to start The Sims than starting off by buying a lot that feels sort of empty. And instead go for a house that feels finished, but it's way, way smaller and you're struggling to pay the rent. All right, moving on to next door and to the final house. So when you walk into this home, you still have sort of a hallway, but everything is in an open space. The powder room is right in front as you come in, and then everything else is in an open concept. The kitchen is exactly in the same place, but it's much fancier. It is raised, so there's a slight nod to the split leveling of the previous house, but that's about it when it comes to similarities. I use a lot of Snowy Escape in this build and in this house, so the style is completely different. It's very monotone, black, whites, and maybe some creams and natural tones. And it's obviously for a different style of sim, but I really like the house and how it looks. Over here, you have a very fancy living room. I find it hard to use this fireplace in some homes, but here I felt like it looked like a modern fireplace. They have a huge television. They have a nice seating area, and like the previous home, through the doors you have a little patio area. Now, like I said, the Sims had the money to change things around, so this house does not have 3 bedrooms. Instead, it has 2 bedrooms. Over here on the left, you have the main bedroom, which has a desk space. So the office is sort of combined with the main bedroom. This main bedroom has a ensuite that is very fancy. It has 2 sinks. It has sort of a wet area over here with a tub and a shower over here in the corner. There's the toilet. I wanted to make it so that it looked like The Sims had chosen to sacrifice number of rooms for space and luxury. So even the doors are different. I wanted to make it seem very expensive. And over here, when you walk in, to the right on the hallway, you find the kids' bedroom. I kept the aesthetic of the bedroom itself, like the wallpaper and everything, still in the same vibe. Like they didn't touch the aesthetic, but the rest inside is very kid, with multiple colors. There's plenty of toys. It looks a little bit messy, even though it's still organized, but it feels like a kid's bedroom, even though the vibe of the actual room is very minimalist. Exactly like the previous home, this house has a door to the outside, over here to this covered porch area. But for this one, I had a lot of fun going with everything and anything that I could find from Snowy Escape. So this backyard is way fancier. For starters, you have the picnic table, yes, but then you walk outside and you have this bar and grill area. To the right, you have over here a hot tub, and I put this arch, which is from Debug, and I placed some statues as well. So it's a very dramatic look when you're over here. And so, if you're in the hot tub, this would be a very glamorous experience. Continuing on to the backyard, I made this sort of central garden so that you kind of separate the spaces. And I put in a pool because I felt again that these Sims were way, way fancier. And speaking of fancy, because this family is a lot more wealthy, they don't need to rent out their garage to someone. So their garage is smaller and it's sort of like a recording studio. I thought of this sim maybe being in music or producing or, social media, whatever it is. And I kind of designed this as a working space. So you don't have a kitchen, you have just sort of a coffee, tea, brewing area. You have a punching bag because maybe they work out in here as well, a couple of chairs if they were having meetings with anyone, and of course a bathroom because it's always useful to have it for gameplay, but also because I think it felt needed for this level of luxury. All right, so just a final overview over the 3 lots that I just showed you. I am really happy about how this turned out. I was happy when I did it pre for rent using the shells because the area already looked a lot busier, but now everything is functional, which I really like. I think you can really, really barely tell where the lot ends and the fake world begins. Obviously, with the starter home, it's a little bit more obvious, but with both of these rental areas, I think it really blends into the environment and it really makes it seem seamless and a lot more realistic and a lot more adjusted to this world. Okay, that's it for part 3. I hope you like these builds and I hope you enjoyed the tour. If you want, all of these builds are available on my gallery. All you have to do is search my username, the BT Simmer, exactly like you're on YouTube, and you can find them all there. I will also include some screenshots at the end of this video just to overlook all of the builds. Please let me know what you think in the comments here or in the gallery. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.